The anomaly. The galactic monitoring station Delta 9 floated silently in the void between star systems, its sensors constantly scanning the darkness for any signs of trouble. For Lieutenant Commander Vexhar of the Thraxian Imperial Navy, this assignment had become routine after 15 years of service. The reptilian officer adjusted his position in the command chair, his scaled fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest as he reviewed the latest sensor sweeps. Nothing unusual appeared on the screens, just the regular traffic of cargo vessels, patrol ships, and the occasional civilian transport moving through approved shipping lanes. His second-in-command, Sub-Lieutenant Kretok, suddenly straightened at her station. The feathers along her neck ruffled with excitement as she double-checked her readings. "Commander, we're detecting an anomaly in Sector 22B. The young aviarian officer's voice carried a note of confusion that made Vexahar turn his attention to her immediately. In all their years monitoring this region, Sector 22B had been completely dead, a forbidden zone marked off limits by imperial decree for over 2 centuries. Vexhar rose from his chair and moved to the sensor station with practiced efficiency. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the data flowing across the holographic display. The readings showed energy signatures unlike anything in their databases, a combination of technologies that shouldn't exist together. The power output alone was staggering, exceeding most military-grade vessels by a factor of 3. Yet the ship's configuration suggested something far more sophisticated than raw power. Run a full-spectrum analysis and cross-reference with all known vessel types, Vexhar ordered. His training told him this could be pirates using experimental technology. But something deeper in his instincts whispered that this was different. The forbidden sectors had been quarantined for reasons that predated his service. Reasons buried in classified files that even senior officers couldn't access. Kretok's talons clicked against her console as she initiated the deep scan. The results came back negative for any known configuration. "Sir, the computer can't identify the vessel type or origin, but there's something else. The ship is broadcasting identification codes on a frequency we haven't used in centuries. The codes are corrupted, but they appear to be human in origin." The word hung in the air like a physical presence. Every officer in the Empire knew the story of humanity, the cautionary tale told at every military academy. Humans had been a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel when they'd made first contact with the Empire 300 years ago. The initial meetings had gone well, with humanity eager to learn and trade. But something had gone catastrophically wrong. The details were classified, but everyone knew the outcome. Earth had gone dark overnight, its colonies had vanished, and every human ship in known space had disappeared without a trace. The Empire had declared the species extinct and marked their former territories as forbidden zones. "That's impossible," Vexhar said quietly. "Humans have been extinct for 3 centuries. The Empire confirmed it through multiple expeditions." He paused, considering the implications. "Contact Fleet Command immediately. Tell them we need backup for a potential first contact situation with an unknown species using possibly stolen human technology." Before Kretok could comply, the communication system activated on its own. The main viewing screen flickered to life, displaying static that gradually resolved into a clear image. Vexhar felt his blood run cold as he stared at the figure on the screen. It was undeniably human. The bipedal form, the soft skin without scales or feathers, the forward-facing eyes that seemed to hold both intelligence and determination. The human wore a crisp uniform of deep blue with silver trim, unlike anything in the Imperial databases but clearly military in nature. The human spoke in flawless galactic standard, though with an accent Vexhar couldn't place. "Greetings, Commander Vexhar. I am Captain Marcus Rivera of the United Earth ship Persistence. We mean no harm to your station or the Empire. We're simply passing through this sector on a journey of exploration." Vexhar struggled to maintain his composure. Years of training hadn't prepared him for speaking with a ghost species. "Captain Rivera, according to all Imperial records, humanity has been extinct for 300 years. Your presence here is unexpected. May I ask how you survived and where you've been?" Captain Rivera's expression remained neutral, but Vexhar thought he detected a hint of sadness in the human's eyes. "Commander, the story of our survival is long and complicated. What matters now is that humanity has returned to the galactic stage. We've spent centuries in isolation, developing our technology and philosophy. We're not the species you once knew. We've evolved, adapted, and grown stronger through adversity." The sensor station began beeping urgently. Kreetak's feathers stood on end as she read the new data. "Commander, 3 Imperial battlecruisers are approaching at maximum speed. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're charging weapons." Captain Rivera's image remained steady on the screen, showing no sign of concern about the approaching warships. "Commander Vexhar, I appreciate your reasonable approach to this situation. However, I should warn you that your approaching vessels might not share your diplomatic instincts. We'd prefer to avoid any misunderstandings that could lead to unnecessary conflict." Vexhar felt torn between his duty to the Empire and his instinct that attacking this ship would be a terrible mistake. The power readings alone suggested the human vessel possessed capabilities beyond anything in the Imperial fleet. But more than that, there was something in Captain Rivera's manner. A quiet confidence that spoke of absolute certainty in their position. "Captain, I need you to understand the situation," Vexhar said carefully. "Your species was declared extinct after what our records call the Earth incident. Your presence here will be seen as either a massive security breach or a potential threat to Imperial stability. The approaching ships won't ask questions before firing." Rivera nodded slowly. "We're aware of how the Empire views our return, Commander. That's why we chose to reveal ourselves gradually, starting with monitoring stations like yours rather than appearing over an Imperial capital world. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. And Commander, I think you should know, the Persistence is not our most advanced vessel. It's simply a scout ship, one of hundreds currently exploring the galaxy." The implications of that statement sent a chill through Vexhar's scales. If this was just a scout ship with power readings that exceeded Imperial battlecruisers, what capabilities did their actual warships possess? He thought of the approaching fleet, commanded by Admiral Thekvar, known throughout the Empire for his aggressive tactics and shoot-first mentality. "Captain, Admiral Thekvar commands those approaching ships. He's not known for diplomacy. If you have any way to demonstrate your peaceful intentions, now would be the time." Rivera's expression shifted slightly, showing what might have been amusement. "Commander, we've been monitoring your communications since we entered this sector. We know exactly who Admiral Thekvar is and his reputation for xenophobia. We've prepared a demonstration that should convince even him that peaceful dialogue is the better option. Watch your sensors carefully." The human ship began to change, not physically. Its hull remained the same angular utilitarian design, but its energy signature shifted dramatically, cycling through configurations that shouldn't be possible with any known technology. One moment it appeared to be using fusion power, the next antimatter, then something entirely different that the sensors couldn't even classify. The ship seemed to be showing off, displaying a technological flexibility that defied everything the Empire knew about starship engineering. "How are you doing that?" Kreetak asked, her professional composure cracking with genuine awe. "No ship can switch power sources like that. The engineering requirements alone would be impossible." Captain Rivera smiled for the first time. "Sub-Lieutenant, humanity learned something important during our isolation. The universe doesn't care about what we think is impossible. It only cares about what we can imagine and then make real. We stopped accepting limitations and started asking why things had to be one way instead of another. This ship doesn't switch power sources. It uses all of them simultaneously, picking the best option for each situation. The Imperial battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace ahead of schedule, their weapons already hot and targeting systems locking onto the human vessel. Admiral Thekvar's voice boomed over the communication channels, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Imperial Forbidden Zone regulations. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." Vexhar watched his sensors as the Persistence made no move to power weapons or raise shields. Instead, the ship simply continued its energy demonstration, now adding gravitational manipulation to its repertoire. Space itself seemed to bend around the vessel, creating distortions that would make targeting nearly impossible. Captain Rivera's voice remained calm as he responded to the Admiral's threat. "Admiral Thekvar, this is Captain Marcus Rivera of the United Earthship Persistence. We are not in violation of any legitimate regulations, as this space belonged to humanity long before your empire declared it forbidden. We're simply reclaiming what was always ours. However, we have no wish for conflict. Stand down your weapons and we can discuss this like civilized beings." The response was predictable. 3 battlecruisers opened fire simultaneously, pouring enough energy into space to vaporize a small moon. Vexhar instinctively shielded his eyes from the brilliant display on his screens, expecting to see the human ship consumed in nuclear fire. When the light faded, the Persistence remained exactly where it had been, completely unharmed. The energy from the Imperial weapons had simply disappeared, absorbed or redirected by technologies that shouldn't exist. The human ship hadn't even raised traditional shields. It had simply convinced the universe that the incoming fire didn't need to reach its target. Admiral Thekvar's voice returned, now tinged with uncertainty. "What kind of shields are those? Our sensors show no barrier, no energy field. How did you survive that barrage?" Captain Rivera's image reappeared on Vexhar's screen, now addressing both the monitoring station and the battlecruisers. "Admiral, we didn't survive your attack. We simply declined to participate in it. Your weapons fired, but we chose not to be where the energy arrived. It's a subtle difference, but an important one. Now, shall we try diplomacy? Or would you prefer another demonstration?" The reckoning Admiral Thekvar stood rigid on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Dreadnought Supremacy. His 4 arms gripped the command rail as he stared at the impossible, readings flooding his tactical displays. 3 full salvos from his battlecruisers had failed to even scratch the human vessel's hull. His senior officers exchanged nervous glances, their confidence in Imperial superiority shaken for the first time in their careers. "Tactical analysis," he barked at his weapons officer, Commander Yorval. The insectoid officer's compound eyes flickered as he processed the data, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Admiral, the human vessel appears to be using some form of dimensional phase shifting. Our weapons are hitting where the ship was, not where it is. It's as if they exist slightly outside our normal space-time reference frame." The Admiral's scales darkened with anger. No species had ever developed such technology, not even the ancient predecessors whose ruins dotted the galaxy. The Empire had spent 1,000 years establishing dominance through superior firepower and technology. Now, a single ship from a supposedly extinct species was making mockery of that superiority. Captain Rivera's voice came through the communication system, still frustratingly calm. "Admiral Thekvar, I understand this must be difficult for you. The Empire has grown accustomed to being the apex power in this galaxy. But times change and species evolve. Humanity spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. We studied every weakness in your technology, every flaw in your tactics, every assumption you make about how the universe works." On the monitoring station, Commander Vexhar watched the standoff with growing concern. He opened a private channel to his superiors at Fleet Command, but the response he received only increased his worry. 20 more Imperial vessels were already en route, including 2 planet-killer-class dreadnoughts. The Empire was preparing to throw its full military might at a single human ship. "Captain Rivera," Vexhar transmitted on a secure channel. "You need to understand that the Empire won't back down. They're sending everything they have. Whatever your intentions, this situation is escalating beyond anyone's control." The human captain's image appeared on his personal screen, and for the first time, Vexhar saw genuine concern in those alien eyes. "Commander, we know what's coming. Our long-range sensors detected the fleet movements the moment they began. That's why we need to end this demonstration quickly and definitively. The Empire needs to understand that the old paradigm no longer applies." Without warning, space around, the Imperial battlecruisers began to shimmer. Dozens of human ships materialized out of nowhere, each one matching or exceeding the Persistence in size and power output. They didn't drop out of hyperspace or decloak from invisibility. They simply appeared, as if they had always been there but had chosen not to be noticed until now. Admiral Thekvar's bridge erupted in chaos as officers tried to track and target the new arrivals. But the human ships made no aggressive moves. They simply hung in space surrounding the Imperial forces without firing a shot. The threat was implicit but unmistakable. The hunters had become the hunted. A new voice joined the communication channel, older and carrying a weight of authority that even Admiral Thekvar recognized. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the UE, United Earth Defense Force. Admiral Thekvar, Commander Vexhar, and all Imperial forces, please stand down. We're transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting point where representatives from both our civilizations can discuss the new reality we all face. Vexhar pulled up the transmitted coordinates and felt his scales pale. The location was in the heart of the former human territories, a system that had been marked as completely dead for 3 centuries. According to all Imperial surveys, nothing existed there but cosmic dust and radiation. Yet the coordinates were specific, including approach vectors and security protocols that suggested a major installation. Admiral Thekvar's pride finally cracked. "Fleet Admiral Chen," he said slowly. "How many ships do you have? How did you survive the Earth incident? What do you want from the Empire?" Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen. She was elderly by human standards, her hair white and face lined, but her eyes held a sharpness that reminded everyone watching of a predator evaluating prey. "Admiral, we have enough ships to ensure our security. As for the Earth incident, we know the Empire's version of events. A plague that wiped out humanity overnight, forcing you to quarantine our space for the galaxy's protection. Very noble of you." Her tone made it clear she didn't believe a word of the official story. "The truth, Admiral, is that humanity discovered something that terrified the Empire. We found evidence that your civilization wasn't the first to claim dominance over this galaxy. We found ruins of species that had been systematically erased from history, entire civilizations that had been deemed too dangerous to the Imperial Order, and we realized we were next. The bridge of every Imperial ship fell silent. These were secrets buried in the deepest classified files, known only to the highest echelons of Imperial leadership. That this human knew them suggested either incredible intelligence capabilities or access to information that should have been destroyed centuries ago." Fleet Admiral Chen continued, her voice carrying across the void. "So we made a choice. We faked our own extinction, retreated to hidden colonies in dimensions your sensors couldn't detect, and we prepared. We studied not just your technology, but your society, your fears, your weaknesses. We learned that the Empire maintains control, not through strength, but through the illusion of strength. And now, that illusion is broken." Commander Vexhar found himself speaking before he could stop himself. "What do you want? If you have such power, why reveal yourselves now?" Captain Rivera answered this time. "Because hiding forever was never the plan, Commander. Humanity doesn't want to conquer or destroy. We want to explore, to grow, to push the boundaries of what's possible. But we couldn't do that while the Empire treated any advancing species as a threat to be eliminated. So we've returned to offer a choice, evolution or extinction." Admiral Thekvar's anger flared again. "You dare threaten the Empire? We have ruled for 1,000 years. Not a threat, Admiral," Fleet Admiral Chen corrected. "A simple statement of fact. The galaxy is changing whether the Empire accepts it or not. Other species are advancing, asking questions the Empire doesn't want answered. You can either adapt to this new reality or be swept aside by it. Humanity is offering to be a bridge between the old order and the new." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We propose a conference at the coordinates we've provided. Bring your scientists, your diplomats, your military leaders. We'll show you technologies that make your current capabilities look like stone tools. We'll share knowledge that the Empire has suppressed for centuries. But in return, the quarantine of former human space ends, and humanity is recognized as an independent sovereign power." The tactical situation was clear to everyone involved. The human ships could destroy the Imperial forces present without effort. The fact that they hadn't suggested either remarkable restraint or a deeper game being played. Admiral Thekvar, for all his aggression, wasn't stupid. He recognized when he was outmatched. "I'll need to consult with Imperial Command," he said stiffly. "This decision is beyond my authority." "Of course," Fleet Admiral Chen replied. "You have 72 hours to respond. Our ships will remain here as a reminder that the status quo has already changed. Whether that change leads to conflict or cooperation is entirely up to you." One by one, the human ships began to fade from sensors, not jumping to hyperspace but simply ceasing to be detectable. Only the Persistence remained, a lone sentinel maintaining watch over the Imperial forces. Captain Rivera's final message was directed at Commander Vexhar. "Commander, you asked good questions and showed genuine interest in understanding rather than simply reacting. The Empire needs more officers like you if it's going to survive what's coming. We hope to see you at the conference." As the connection closed, Vexhar stared at the readings from the human ship. Everything he had believed about the galaxy's power structure had just been shattered. The Empire, which had seemed eternal and invincible, suddenly looked fragile and outdated. He thought about the implications of humanity's return, not just the technological superiority they had demonstrated, but the philosophical challenge they represented. The Empire had built its power on the premise that it alone possessed the wisdom and strength to guide the galaxy. It had suppressed or absorbed every species that might challenge that narrative. But humanity had refused to be suppressed. They had evolved in isolation, developing not just new technologies, but new ways of thinking about technology itself. Sub-Lieutenant Kretok approached him quietly. "Commander, what do you think will happen?" Vexhar continued watching the Persistence on his sensors. The ship hadn't moved, hadn't powered weapons, hadn't done anything threatening. It simply existed, a monument to humanity's refusal to accept extinction. "I think, Sub-Lieutenant, that we're witnessing the end of one era and the beginning of another. The question is whether the Empire will recognize that fact in time to adapt." 3 days later, the conference convened in a system that shouldn't have existed, where Imperial charts showed empty space. A massive station orbited a star that had supposedly gone nova centuries ago. The human installation was a marvel of engineering, combining aesthetics and functionality in ways that made Imperial designs look primitive. Representatives from across the Empire arrived to find not just humanity, but delegates from a dozen other species, all supposedly extinct civilizations that had found refuge in humanity's hidden domains. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had become protectors of those the Empire had tried to erase. The conference would determine whether the galaxy moved forward together or split into competing factions. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire faced a choice that wasn't really a choice at all: evolution or extinction. The humans had learned to evolve. The question now was whether the Empire could do the same.